Hello everybody and welcome to the Clash of Streamers Heroes Guide. As you may know, there are 5 different classes of heroes in Clash of Streamers. There are hunters, mages, priests, rogues, and warriors. Each of these classes have their own specialties, but which class is best out of them all? In this video, we're going to take a deep look at each of these classes and try to come to a concrete answer and determine exactly what the best heroes are in Clash of Streamers. Let's get to it. If we want to find out what the best heroes are in Clash of Streamers, the first thing we need to do is look at the base stats of each class. We need to know how the power, attack, health, and armor of each class compare to each other. So, as a baseline, we're going to look at a 1-star level 1 hero from each class. Each of these heroes have no additional buffs from achievements and also don't have any additional buffs from the loyalty tree. With that out of the way, let's take a look at the stats of each hero. To start, let's look at power. The graph that you're looking at shows exactly how the power of each class compares with each other. As you probably noticed, rogues have the highest power, sitting at exactly 676, while mages have the lowest power, sitting down at 553. Now let's take a look at attack. This is actually rather similar to power. Rogues are at the very top of the attack chart with 52 attack, and mages and warriors have the lowest attack stat of 42. What about health? Here's where things start to change a bit. Now you'll see warriors have claimed the top spot for health, sitting at 357, with hunters and mages in the lowest spots at 252 health. Lastly, let's look at armor. Obviously, you'll find warriors at the top spot with 31 armor, strangely enough alongside mages, which are also at 31 armor. In this case, priests take the bottom spot for armor, sitting down at 18. Overall, these graphs show a comparison of the power, attack, health, and armor of each class relative to each other. What people may not have realized before this video is that there is actually quite a large disparity between the highest value of each stat and the lowest value. For example, there's about a 24% difference between the highest attack stat of a rogue and the lowest attack stats of a mage and warrior. Because these stat differences are quite large, you seriously need to consider which heroes you are using for which roles in Clash of Streamers. Some heroes are simply much better at doing certain jobs than others. Throughout the rest of the video, we're going to take a look at each class individually and discuss its strengths and weaknesses. By the end, we'll come to a conclusion on what the best class is and exactly how you can use this knowledge to your advantage. Let's start with hunters. Hunters don't really specialize and shine in any particular stat. They are rank 3 in power, rank 3 in attack, tied for rank 5 in health, and rank 3 in armor. Pretty average stats overall. Even though they don't stand out particularly well, that definitely doesn't make them bad. One area where they stand out in is crowd control. Hunters actually have quite a wide range of crowd control ultimate abilities and passive abilities. The freezing arrows, thunder, and tornado ultimate abilities gives a hunter the ability to freeze, stun, or silence enemies. Enemies that are silenced won't be able to use their ultimate abilities, and enemies that are frozen or stunned won't be able to attack at all. They also have some great crowd control passive abilities. For example, the double shot passive ability allows your attacks to target 2 different enemies at a time, and the stunning arrow passive ability gives your attacks a 20% chance to stun foes for 1 round. I'm pretty sure that if you combine both of these passive abilities together, you have about a 36% chance of stunning at least 1 or 2 enemies on each attack, which is honestly pretty crazy. Even though hunters don't have the best stats, they still have quite a wide variety of abilities, which with some great crowd control potential, which can be very useful during the Clash of Streamers late game. Now let's take a look at mages. Earlier on when we showed the stats for each class, you may have been shocked to see the stats for mages. They have the lowest power, the lowest attack, the lowest health, and the highest armor. This is actually really crazy to see because mages are a really popular choice for most players. This is mainly because of their wide range of ultimate abilities which target the enemy team, the best of which being the Dark Vortex ability. In fact, I even recommended a mage with the Dark Vortex ability in our advanced combat guide video. It turns out that I am not very smart because mages are actually one of the worst damage dealing classes in the game. So if you happen to feel a sudden urge to go back to our video and say some not so nice stuff, I don't blame you. Just so we're clear, mages are not the best class in the game if you're looking to deal a ton of instant area of effect damage. So far, I've probably made it sound like mages are really bad, but they actually aren't bad at all. For example, the mage class is the best class in the game if you're looking to get maximum damage over time. Poisons, burns, all that stuff, mages absolutely excel in this area. This can be found in 3 different ultimate abilities which deal damage over time: Magic Nova, Fireball, and Mind Blast. Each of these abilities deal a ton of extra damage over time. On top top of that, they have the Inferno and Death Poison passive abilities, which deal damage to enemy heroes after death, which actually brings me to my next point. Mages have a ton of abilities which activate after death, and for the most part, they are really, really good. The Freezing Death ability has a 10% chance to freeze all enemies for 2 rounds, the Kamikaze ability deals 45% damage against all enemies, and the Sacrifice ability grants each of your allies 30% attack for 3 rounds. In total, mages have 5 different abilities which activate after death, which makes positioning them in the very first position on your team a very viable strategy. Simply let your mage die early on and reap the rewards from a bunch of post-death abilities. So despite the fact that mages have the worst stats out of any of the classes, their wide range of damage over time and post-death abilities make up for it. Now let's take a look at priests. Priests actually rank quite high stat-wise. They have the second highest power, the second highest attack, the third highest health, and the lowest armor. So they're already doing quite a bit better than mages in this regard. What they also do better than mages is area of effect damage. In fact, priests have the best area of effect ultimate ability, Light Implosion. To be clear, there is no other ultimate ability in the game which will deal as much instant area of effect damage as this ability. Light Implosion targets the whole enemy team and will deal 110% of the priest's attack damage. Because of this combination of high attack and high damage on the Light Implosion ability, priests are probably the best class in the game for climbing to high stages of the campaign tower and the arena. They deal more damage than mages, they deal more damage than hunters, and they have an ultimate ability that targets the entire enemy team. It's actually quite crazy. Most people assume that priests are only good for healing. I mean, they do have 4 healing ultimate abilities and 6 healing passive abilities, so of course priests are good for healing. Well, they're not good for healing, they're the best class for healing, but they're also the best class in the game for maximum area of effect damage. This combination of healing abilities and high damage area of effect abilities makes priests extremely versatile and overall just an absolutely insane class. Now let's take a look at rogues. Rogues have quite a bad reputation due to the fact that they don't have any ultimate abilities that target entire enemy teams. To make up for this flaw, they have the best stats in the game. They have the highest power, the highest attack, the second highest health, and the 4th highest armor. But still, you can't ignore the fact that their ultimate abilities only target a maximum of 4 enemies. Because of this, most people would pass off a rogue in exchange for a mage, hunter, or a priest. Personally, I think this is a big mistake. I'm gonna throw out a bold statement here and say, I think rogues are the best damage dealing class in the game. Although a priest will deal the most area of effect damage out of the box with the help of Light Implosion, a rogue can do better. For example, what if your rogue had the Light Implosion ability as well? Well, if your rogue had Light Implosion, it would obviously be better than a priest with Light Implosion since a rogue has higher attack. Well, this is actually possible through event artifacts. If you happen to have an event artifact with the Light Implosion ability equipped on your rogue, I don't think you'll get any higher area of effect damage than that. For example, take a look at this rogue. It has a legendary event artifact equipped, and this legendary event artifact has the Light Implosion ability. This means that on each attack, the rogue has a 35% chance to activate the Light Implosion ability. If you play around with this rogue in battle, you'll see it can clear enemy waves just so easily. It will deal more damage than a mage, it will deal more damage than a hunter. Honestly, it'll probably deal more damage than any class in the game. Of course, you'll need to equip the right passive abilities on the rogue to maximize its damage, but in my opinion, I don't think you can deal more damage than a rogue with a Light Implosion event artifact. Overall, I think you'll find that rogues can scale up and be one of the best, if not the very best, late game damage dealing class. Now let's take a look at warriors. Warriors are tanky, plain and simple. They have the highest health, the highest armor, the 4th highest power, and the lowest attack. To be honest, there's not much that needs to be said about warriors. They're good at what they're meant to do, which is take damage and prevent allies from taking damage. To help them tank, they have some really great healing ultimate abilities like Empowering Strike and Shield Block, and also have a ton of really good armor and health increasing passive abilities. This makes them the best class in the game for taking a ton of damage. Because of their extremely low attack, it's important that you don't try to turn your warriors into damage dealers. Use them for what they're meant to do, which is take damage for allies. Save the damage dealing for a rogue or a priest. That's the best warrior advice that I can give. If you do this, you'll probably be much better off. If you've made it this far into the video, you're probably wondering what the best hero class is. Is it a hunter, mage, priest, rogue, or a warrior? Unfortunately, there is no clear winner here. Each class is useful for different scenarios. If we were to rank heroes based on their damage, the best class would probably be priest, followed by a rogue. These classes simply deal the most damage by far. A priest will be much more useful in the early game and mid game stages of Clash of Streamers because of the Light Implosion ability. Meanwhile, a rogue with a Light Implosion event artifact would be much better than a priest, so you should definitely work towards a solid rogue as you enter the late game. Until you manage to get a good rogue, a priest will likely be your best damage dealer. As you find yourself completing weekly events and forging yourself some event artifacts, make sure that you are getting a good mix of warriors for their tankiness, priests for maximum area of effect damage, and rogues for the chance to get an insane late game damage dealer. While hunters and mages can definitely still have a place in a solid team, I think that focusing on a good warrior, priest, and rogue should be your #1 priority when you work on improving your team and progressing through combat in Clash of Streamers. And that's all I've got to talk about for this guide on the best heroes in Clash of Streamers. If you'd like to learn more about this topic, you can also check out our written guide on our website clashofstreamers.tv. Link to that will be in the description. Either way, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video or learned something new, definitely leave a like and subscribe for more. A lot more Clash of Streamers content on the way. Until the next time.